Video games are having their moment during the COVID-19 pandemic. March 2020 was the first month in history when video game sales reached $10 billion. One game that's been driving this boom in particular, Animal Crossing: New Horizons. It's a family-friendly game that allows users to explore their own private islands. It sold 5 million digital copies in March alone, more than any console game in history. And more aggressive games like Call of Duty and Plague Inc. are also seeing an increase in users. So, what is it about video games that's helping people cope during this pandemic? And why has Animal Crossing specifically been so popular? Before we get into why Animal Crossing is so popular, you need to understand why so many people are turning to their favorite video games in the first place. You see, if you think you're depressed during this global health crisis, you're not alone. As of late May, 53% of Americans say they feel depressed or anxious due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this anxiety can take a physical toll.
When we are anxious, our body produces the stress hormone cortisol. This can actually be detrimental to our heart, to our liver, and to our kidneys.
Studies show that most gamers say they often turn to video games to recover from stressful situations. So it makes sense that people are gaming more in these stressful times. But what exactly does gaming do to your brain that helps it to relax?
So games help alleviate stress primarily through a thing called flow. Flow is that feeling of being totally immersed in an activity where the rest of the world seems to fade away and you forget everything else.
Games can also help bring people together. In fact, research has shown that some online multiplayer games facilitate strong friendships. With 30% of American adults feeling lonelier under lockdown, games could fill the void created by social distancing. Withdrawing from physical social situations has been pointed to as a symptom of a video game addiction. But now that this isolation has become a widespread survival strategy, even the most casual gamers might have been looking for an outlet designed to help them connect with others in de-stress. Enter Animal Crossing: New Horizons.
Your new life is calling. Explore, create, and customize your island paradise anytime. Animal Crossing: New Horizons.
The Animal Crossing series is tailor-made to realize the therapeutic potential of video games. Unlike most games, players aren't given missions or levels to complete. They simply live out a virtual life in an almost utopian village.
The way that I describe it is like you have chores almost, but like they're chores that you want to do rather than chores you have to do. So you go around your island, you might water your flowers, pick up the fossils, pick up seashells, pick up the fruit, sell these things, talk to your neighbors, shake down the trees, all these different things.
This unique gameplay could also bring players that sense of flow we talked about earlier. And the completion of self-imposed goals in the game is especially satisfying.
There is something different about setting your own creative goal and to flex that sense of creativity within yourself. It's a really meaningful and wonderful feeling to do something that you choose to do rather than what somebody else is choosing to do for you.
Millennials might also find it appealing to complete goals in Animal Crossing, like owning a home or paying off debt that their generation has struggled to meet in real life. Remember, almost 1 in 3 American adults report feeling lonelier under lockdown. This could explain why the game's multiplayer feature is so attractive during the pandemic, even for casual gamers.
For example, every island starts with a randomly assigned type of fruit tree. My island had cherries. But if I wanted apples, pears, peaches, or oranges, I have to find somebody in real life who has one of those and go visit their island. And if I'm running around somebody's island, that's an easy way to just ask, by the way, how are you doing?
And it's not just your friends who might be playing Animal Crossing to cope during coronavirus. Public figures and brands have recognized the massive appeal of the game and are using it to connect with their fans and followers. For example, the Detroit Lions football team used the game to announce their season schedule. And Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has used it to keep in touch with her Twitter followers.
Like almost everyone else in the world, she is whiling away this quarantine time playing Animal Crossing.
Another simple reason why Animal Crossing might relieve stress? Everything in the game looks cute.
Honestly, like cute is the best way to describe it, and the combination of the music and the characters and the aesthetic are definitely what make it rather soothing.
I've actually noticed that people are taking pictures of these animals as if it's like their own little, their children, their pets. And it's because we're looking at them and they're eliciting this, really cute awe feeling. And sort of the neurological basis of finding things cute is that if we find something cute and it makes us happy, we want to protect it.
But not everyone is relaxing by playing stress-free, wholesome video games. Shooter games like Call of Duty and Fortnite have also broken records during the pandemic. And more people are watching streams of super competitive esports matches than ever before. Amazon's game streaming service Twitch saw a 23% surge in viewership in March. While Animal Crossing helps players keep their mind off the pandemic, a game like Plague Inc. lets them spread a pandemic of their own through a virtual world. It's a strategy game that was first released in 2012. But as COVID-19 began to spread in December 2019, the game spiked in popularity. It went from about 2,000 downloads to nearly 18,000 in a month. Players can help the virus evolve and mutate to speed up the rate of infections, while also eluding scientists who are working on a vaccine to stop you. The game's developers say that renewed interest in the game has coincided with outbreaks before, showing that some players aren't seeking a distraction from what's going on in the real world. So, what do players get out of simulating something that looks so much like the world we live in right now? And why would anyone want to play as a virus that wreaks havoc on the world in this moment?
I think people are drawn to Plague Inc., which is a pretty morbid and scary game, out of a kind of weird fascination with the coronavirus for the same reason that people watch the news. It also makes a lot of sense that people really want to feel some sense of control. When I watch the news, it's scary, I have no real power. If I'm playing Plague Inc., even though I'm trying to destroy all of humanity, it feels like that's at least within my control.
For many players, Plague Inc. offers an opportunity to learn about pandemics by creating one themselves.
So when it comes to Plague Inc., I mean, realistically speaking, someone is not going to be unleashing this havoc, this catastrophe in real life. But if you do that in a video game, it's a simulation, no one's getting hurt, and you get to sort of find out what would happen if you did that. You can see this unfold, and you can be the one that's sort of in charge of the mischief, gathering the data, seeing what's happening while you're doing it.
The spread of a pandemic in Plague Inc. hinges on things like how often people in its virtual world wash their hands. Players can control where the illness starts and how lethal it is. And so, Plague Inc. attracts players who are curious about how pandemics worked. This was particularly true in China, where information on the pandemic was scarce. In January 2020, Plague Inc. became the #1 app in China. That didn't last long. China's government ordered the removal of Plague Inc. from Apple's App Store. The renewed interest in the game spread internationally, along with the virus. This led Plague Inc.'s developer, Endemic Games, to introduce a new version of the game, where players stop a pandemic from happening instead of spreading it. With so many players turning to games to get through the pandemic, the industry is poised to continue its boom. When lockdown measures began in March, gaming usage went up by 75%. And according to Comcast, video game downloads are up by at least 50%.
I think we are converting new gamers. There's plenty of people who played no hours a week or 1 hour a week. I was never reading books before because I found myself with no time, and I started reading books again. So I'm reading books again. There's somebody who's come back into gaming and spend their time.
But will this behavior continue in a post-COVID world?
I think you're going to win over some customers. I think you're going to see probably a permanent 10-15% lift in game sales and a temporary 30-40% lift, and that's really good for the industry.
Gaming was already becoming a major force in the entertainment industry. In 2019, Netflix said their biggest competitor was Fortnite, not HBO. Now, quarantines have put the industry in a position to grow its influence even more quickly.
I think gaming is going to grow with as the population ages. Gaming is like healthcare. If you have an aging population that is getting wealthier and consuming more healthcare, then healthcare grows way faster than GDP or population growth. Gaming is that. You have an aging population who is going to consume more and more games as they get older and they get wealthier. The industry is going to grow forever. It's not slowing down anytime soon.